Hello and welcome to Native Talk. My name is Nanekwia Boachwa Efrifa Afwaka, and today, being another season, first episode, we are so excited in 2020 to come back on the screen. So because today is a first episode, we are so excited. We are going to start with a very important issue: domestic violence. Why did we choose to start with this issue? In 2019, a statistics I read state that 1 in 3 women experience or has experienced some form of domestic violence, and 1 in 5 men has experienced some form of domestic violence. So which tells you how important this topic is. You know, on this platform we can only bring you the best, so we decided to invite Azelene Williams. She is a domestic violence survivor. She's in Perth. Azelene is a mother. She is a wife. She is a holistic counselor. She's a student as well. So you can see she's very, very busy, or she has a lot on her plate. Aside that, Azelene is an author, and I have one of her books right here with me. Breaking the Silence. I'm about halfway to finish reading the book. Azelene will talk about the book, during the interview. And also I'll leave Azelene's details in the comment section down below. Without much ado, let's give the platform to Azelene Williams.
So I heard there's people internationally watching to the program today, and I'm going to start off with the 4 hellos that I know. That is English hello. Hallo, hoe gaan dit met jou in Afrikaans? Dumela, one of the South African native languages, and Salam alaikum. I'm not quite sure where you are from in the world, but I am looking forward to take part in today's program, and I'm looking forward to answer all the questions that has been sent to me. Now, I want to thank you for asking me to be part of this program, and I'm going to start off telling the guest a little bit about myself. So my name is Azelene Williams. I am living in Australia. I'm living in Perth, and born in South Africa. I lived in the Middle East for a couple of years. I was in Dubai for about 8 months, and then I moved to Muscat in Oman. And we resided in Australia in 2012, beginning of 2012, and I called this home. I love this country that I'm living in, and I'm grateful for Australia to have me. So what do I do professionally? I've got a couple of hats that I manage. Currently, I'm a full-time social work student. I'm a qualified holistic counsellor, but currently studying social work. I've got 2 units left, and I will be able to graduate the middle of the year. So I'm really looking forward to that. Apart from that, I'm also a published author. I've authored 2 books of my own lived experience, and 2 others that I will talk about a little bit later on as well. I run programs for WH Health Safety Services in schools. We call it Healthy Relationship Program, and that's basically where I go in and I deliver a 1.5 or 2 hour program regarding domestic violence and healthy relationship. So first part of the program is the theory around domestic violence and healthy relationships, and then I do my lived experience as well. Normally run the program for year 8 to year 12s. Then I'm also part of rural communities. They started a project last year that I got involved in, and I'm one of the 12 advocates. My story, my time, that's what it's called. I am a full-time mum as well. Like, it is a full-time job, and I'm a wife. I hope to work in the space that I'm currently studying in when I graduate, and just trying to make a difference in the world and advocate against domestic and family violence. So that's a little bit about me. So I get asked often about holistic counseling and what does that entail. It is different from normal counseling. So holistic counseling, we work with the mind, body, and the spirit. We work with people as a whole. I also use therapies when I do holistic counseling sessions. And the 3 therapies that I love using is art therapy, sand tray therapy, and clay therapy. Clay therapy would probably, in the line of work that I do, be one of my top therapies when it comes to anger management. It's one of the tools that I can teach a person who's got imploded anger, lots of frustration, to release that and get rid of that anger in a very safe environment. So domestic violence is not just a physical thing. A lot of times I get people saying to me, Azelene, it's horrible what you've been through, and I'm so glad I'm not going through what you've been through, or I didn't go through what you've been through. I was never physically abused, I was only emotionally abused. That's one of the things that really concerns me and sometimes makes me sad, because I don't think people realize how deep emotional abuse sits and where it sits in the end if you go through that. So I'm going to reference from my book, Breaking the Silence, that I will talk a little bit later on a bit more about the types of abuse that I mention in my book. And if you get a copy of my book, you can also download my book for free. I will make sure that there's a link with this video, or with the videos, that you can download the book. So the ones I'm talking about and refer to a lot is the physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, economic or financial abuse, mental or psychological abuse, sexual abuse, spiritual abuse, social abuse, and adult bullying. So that's the ones that I touch on in my book. There's different ones out there as well. Gaslighting is one of the new ones, and please go and read about it, because that's one of the things that happens quite often these days. So physical abuse will not just be hitting somebody. It can be things like standing over you, getting in your face, blocking a door. So if you want to leave the room because things are just getting too bad, you're not able to because that person is blocking the door. That is part of physical abuse. Punching, kicking, biting, slapping, choking. There's a whole list that falls under the physical abuse. But then we get to emotional abuse. That's things like insults, put downs, intimidation, talking down on you, making threats, and the list goes on. Verbal abuse can be things like yelling, shouting, swearing, name calling, mocking. Economic abuse, withholding money, forcing the person to leave their job, forcing the person to hand over their salaries, preventing somebody to use a car, preventing somebody to go to work, and in the end they lose their jobs. Mental abuse will be playing mind games with you. The mental abuse is, when I published my book, Gaslighting, well, I published the book, the first copy in 2015. People didn't really at that point talk about gaslighting, so I actually want to just rephrase these little bits in my book as well in the coming months. But if I talk about mental abuse, it would hold hands with gaslighting. So it's playing on people's, playing mind games with people, twisting things around, accusing people from doing things that they haven't done. It will be things like a person would place something somewhere, say for instance their car keys, and when they go to look where the car keys are, it's not there. The abuser will be the one that took the car keys, but they will almost put that person in a situation where they really think they are going crazy because the car keys isn't there. So yeah, like I say, just go and read and look at a couple of videos about gaslighting. It's quite a scary form of abuse. And then obviously we get sexual abuse. The top one there, always when I say to people, so what is sexual abuse? The first thing that comes up is rape. So unwanted touching is a form of sexual abuse. Vulgar comments, sexual comments towards the person. Pressure to have sex. Forcing somebody that's pregnant to have an abortion. Posting naked photos of them and basically asking them to pose for naked photos. Then there's spiritual abuse and social abuse as well. So if we talk about domestic violence, we need to make it very, very clear in our conversations that domestic violence is not just a physical thing. It is so much bigger than just the physical act. So the next question that I got was, and I'm going to read it as I received it. Why did you choose to stay in a dangerous relationship for as long as you did? A lot of people do not understand why people stay in a domestic violence relationship. And each and every person's situation will be different. But talking about it and explaining to people why you stayed in a relationship, I think it's quite important, because it is getting knowledge out there, and it is, people don't ask that question just because, you know, they're blaming you, they're victim blaming. Sometimes they really ask that question because they don't know. They want to try to understand domestic violence a little bit more. My teaching and the way I teach is, I want to get the message out. We all realize domestic violence is a huge issue, not just in Australia, but worldwide. And if we are not able to talk about that difficult, hard questions, and as victims, and sometimes as abusers, give those real answers and explaining it to people, why did we do this, or why did we stay there? People won't understand. So I'm seeing it as a teaching, and I would like to answer that from the bottom of my heart for what was going on for me back then. If I think about that question today, I might think about it a little bit differently. But at that point, when I was in that relationship for 3.5 years, I've got 3 reasons why I stayed in that relationship. For me, it was guilt, shame, and fear. So I want to get to the guilt part of things. I grew up in a house where I had a good relationship with my mum, my dad, and my sister. And I think that guilt was almost because I didn't want to disappoint them. I didn't want them to know what was going on in my life because I really honestly didn't want to disappoint them. I left school when I was in standard 8. In Australia terms, it's year 10. So, because I had dyslexia. So for myself, I already felt I disappointed them. That was one of the reasons that I didn't want to tell them. It was something that was lying very, very deep inside my thinking. And it's that something that almost got me killed in that relationship. The shame part of things was, now I'm 47 now, and if you, in a couple of years, only listen to this video, it's 2020 now. When I grew up and those years, people didn't talk about domestic violence. I grew up in a very small little town. My mom had a wonderful big estate agency, and people didn't talk about those things. That's also one of the reasons when this whole thing came out, I never made a court case against him, because I didn't want to go and stand in court and let everybody know in our little town what happened to me as a girl, you know, in her mid-teens. So the shame was really, really real for me. I also didn't want my school friends to know. There's some of my school friends these days that listen to my story, and I give them a book to read, and they always say to me, Azelene, we never ever knew. But that was where the combination of the guilt and the shame came together, and why I didn't talk about it. Then the other part was fear. I was almost killed twice in this relationship. I was staring in the barrel of a .38 special revolver, and my partner pulled the trigger. The bullet missed my head, or my face rather, by 10 centimeters. It was so close, I literally felt the cement particles on my face. And after that ordeal, I went back for another year. And the second time I was almost killed was the night I escaped. That was when things just completely turned around. So the reason I stayed in that relationship, if I say it was because of fear, was in my head, I knew if I'm going to leave, he's going to hunt me down and he's going to kill me. but if I stay, he's also going to kill me. So I was in a bit of a catch-22. And because of the guilt and the shame and the reasons I didn't talk to people, I didn't put my hand out and say, hey, I've got a problem, I need help. That combination of the three things just kept me there for 3.5 years. If I look back today, what I want to say to people out there, if you're in a relationship like that, if it sounds familiar, is get help. Speak up. It's not those days anymore. People are talking about it, and you need to talk about it. And if you speak to somebody and they laugh it off, or they don't believe that you, or they don't have the time, don't keep quiet. Try again. I promise you there will be somebody that will listen to you. If you don't have anybody in your close vicinity, your friendship circle that you can talk to, or your family circle to talk to, go and knock on an organization's door. Go to a church. Go to a community services provider. Talk to the person in the cafe on the corner, but talk to somebody. You don't always have to say, oh, my day's great, if people ask how you're doing today. Sometimes you can say, you know what? Today's not a good day. So if you've got time and you go and download the free e-copy of my book on my website, website's easy, it's just Azelene Williams, all one word, .com. You'll see, or if you've got a hard copy, you'll see, if you turn the cover page, there's a little quote. This book I signed for my daughter in 2018. The quote says, life is full of challenges. In the end, it's getting up that pulls us through the dark, painful days. This is a quote that sits very close to my heart, and the question that I got was, how did I get up, and how did I pull through? I actually want to start off with reading the back part of my book. That was the night I escaped, because that is exactly where the standing up started. So bear with me, because this might take a while. I was beautiful the day we met, but look at me now, I'm all torn apart. It is close to midnight on a Saturday evening in early January 1993. But instead of revealing the party atmosphere of New Year, like most 20-year-olds, I'm lying completely motionless on the cold, hard floor of my living room. I can faintly hear the late-night traffic outside my open window on the second-floor apartment facing Pretoria Street in Pretoria, South Africa. Fighting the blackness that threatens to consume me, I try to entertain my thoughts and calling for help. I know this is going to be pointless. I lick my lip and I recognize the familiar metallic tang of my own blood in my mouth. The dark blue carpet in my living room felt like sandpaper under my bruised, battered face. I closed my eyes and let down a single tear that left a trail of broken promises. Lying in a broken position, with one eye still closed, my thoughts turned to my mother. Strangely, I was wondering what she was doing and what she would say if she knew what was happening to her daughter at that moment. Would she pick me up and hold me and pacify me like she did when I was a little girl? Or will she be disappointed that I didn't realize what was going on in my relationship and saw the warning signs? Deep down in my heart, I know that she would gently stroke my hair, smile at me sweetly, and say to me, it's going to be okay. Azelene, you are going to be okay. With that thought in my mind, a smile flickered across my face, and I felt momentarily at peace. The mirage of safetiness was ripped apart when I felt the sharp spurs of his boots penetrating the skin on my back. And I screamed, a deep, deep, continuous scream as he kicked me over and over and over again, without mercy, without remorse. What have I done to deserve this? And how am I going to escape this pure rage this man has for me? My final thoughts before I lost consciousness was the panicking realization that this is the night that I'm going to die. He's finally going to kill me. And it's going to be a long, slow, and very painful death. This was the night that I escaped my domestic violence relationship. At one point, I lost consciousness, and the next moment my heart started beating. My eyes were closed, and I heard my heart, and I thought to myself, where am I? Am I dead? Am I still in my flat? The craziest thing was I was too scared to open my eyes. I was fearful to face reality. In the end, I did open up my eyes. And I'm not going to spoil the entire story of how I escaped and what happened afterwards. I'm going to leave that for you to read my book. But that is the evening I escaped. The first person I phoned from the police station was my sister. That's the first time that I, in so many words, said to her, I'm in a domestic violence relationship and I need help. So my message in front was because of what happened to me. It was literally me standing up from that floor in my apartment and getting help. Afterwards, it was also, I went for professional help. I realized for the first little bit, because it was my first relationship, is this how men are? Is this how they react? Is this what they do? Is this what's going on behind closed doors? I didn't understand that. And I had to go for professional help to make me understand that all men is not the same. And as an advocate, I don't only advocate for women, although the statistics in Australia currently and basically worldwide shows us that more women die of domestic violence than men. There's a lot of men that goes through it as well. A lot of men go through emotional abuse. So for me, it was that reaching out to the right people, starting to talk about it. After that, I did keep quiet for quite a while. I didn't tell everybody my story. But in 2015, I published my book and there was no going back. That was when my advocacy started. And I don't know where it's going to end, but I can tell you one thing, it's not going to end. If I can make a difference in one person's life after these videos are published online, I did a good thing. So my advocacy will go on probably till the day I put my head down. The quote that I'm just going to read again, and I really hope it would make sense to you and it will mean something to you one day as well. Life is full of challenges. In the end, it's getting up that pulls us through the dark, painful days. Finally, I would just like to say thank you. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself, the work that I do, my advocacy, and my lived experience through a domestic violence relationship. I honestly hope that what I've told you is going to make a difference in your life. If you yourself is not going through an unhealthy relationship, please pass this videos on or the interview on to friends and family. Let's spread the word. It's not cool It is not cool to be horrible to somebody else. It affects a lot of people. It affects your partner, it affects your kids, it affects your family, it affects your work. It's not worth it. If it's not working out, then you need to get out of that relationship. Thank you for having me. If there's any other questions, please pop it below and I will pop in every now and again and I'll answer it. I can make some more videos. Yeah, I just want to be there to support you. Thanks. Bye.